Okay, so the next item is the 2021 annual report, which was made available via the OAA website, as again on April 14th. And I would just like to do a summary and take a few moments to reflect on a few items from 2021. And we know that we all struggled through a second year of COVID, and some more than others. I would like to focus on some positive outcomes from 2021 and a number of things that we did achieve through COVID anyway. In the beginning of the year, Council unanimously renewed its commitment to 3 areas of focus: the planet, the people, and the profession. And we issued final reports from the Truth and Reconciliation Working Group and Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion Roundtables. We acted on a number of the resulting recommendations, because reports aren't any good unless they're recommendations that we're acting on. This included the launch of our new EDI web pages and Indigenous architecture web pages as a resource. We made headway with additional training in the area of EDI for our membership. We hosted our first virtual conference and increased accessibility to all of the continuing education program through robust bi-weekly webinar series. We advanced a number of important submissions to the government, including recommendations to address the long-term care crisis. We augmented member tools and resources with the launch of our new TEUI calculator, as well as no-cost access to CSA standards referenced in the National Ontario Building Codes. And I'm happy to say this special access for members has just been renegotiated with the CSA and will continue. Finally, oh yeah, that's great. And finally, we completed an operational review and wasted no time mobilizing a 5-year plan to implement the resulting recommendations. So if that was a lot, actually. Sounds short and fast, but it was a lot of work, and we're very happy to be in the place that we are right now. If you have any questions regarding the annual report, please ask them now in the Q&A box on the virtual platform, or step up to the microphone. I don't see any questions, so I would like to invite Seth back to the podium to present the 2021 audited financial reports. Thanks.
Thanks, Susan. I'm happy to present to the membership the audited financial statement for the Ontario Association of Architects. These statements, prepared by Grant Thornton LLP Chartered Accountants, on page 1 states that the accompanying financial statements present fairly, in all material and respects, the financial position of the Ontario Association of Architects as at November 30th, 2021, and its results of operations and its cash flow for the year then ended in accordance with Canadian accounting standards for non-for-profit organizations. The financial statements and auditor's report were reviewed and recommended for approval by the OAA Audit Committee on February 23rd, 2022. OAA Council approved the 2021 financial statements on March 3rd, 2022. I would like to highlight a few items of note from the 2021 fiscal year. Membership for the OAA continued to grow, as seen in prior years, resulting in an increased income for member dues. The expected decrease in conference revenue and increase in direct program expense was in line with budgeted forecasts related to hosting a virtual conference after an in-person event was cancelled in 2020. The examination of architects in Canada revenue increased significantly, as the exam in 2020 were delayed due to the pandemic and administered in 2021. Our financial management plans in 2021 was to continue to focus on internal organization efficiencies to maximize value received from fees, which also was accomplished and shown in the organization's ability to meet the budgeted restricted reserve transfers for operating reserves, legal reserves, and meeting the newly developed policy for capital reserves through the Building Reserve Fund study conducted in 2021. That covers my comments for the 2021 fiscal year. If anyone has any questions, I'd be happy to answer them as best I can. If I'm unable to, I will direct questions to the knowledgeable staff that's here with me today. So I'll give everybody a minute. Do I need anything? No. Okay, I think I'll move forward if everybody's okay. No questions. Awesome. Fantastic. That's great news. Okay, so moving forward to 2021 financial year, to the OAA's 2022 finances, I would like to take a few moments to comment on this year's finances. After reviewing the first quarter quarter financial statements for 2021 with the Manager of Finance, Melanie Walsh, and Executive Director, Christy Doyle, I can report that the OA's finances are tracking normally with the continued careful management of fees you pay to the association. I would like to mention a couple items to note. As of the end of February 2022, 84% of the budgeted fees have been received. While we have created our 2022 budget with the hybrid approach in mind regarding operations and in particular committee meetings, it is expected that we will be under budget this year in the areas of travel and direct meeting costs. The OA's return to office policy has allowed for ongoing opportunities for remote work as well as holding meetings virtually. This is consistent with our commitment to sustainability and reducing our carbon footprint. You will have read in the annual report information about the OA's operational review and the 39 recommendations made. We have mapped out a 5-year plan to implement these recommendations, and you will see specific costs associated with those incorporated in the 2022 budget as well as coming years. In late 2021, Council approved a reserve fund study and accompanying plan for the OA over the next 30 years, which contemplates set contributions to the plan each year moving forward in order to rebuild the capital reserve, which has been depleted by the OA refresh and renovation project. The study and the funding plan sees the OA well positioned to maintain the building, our major asset, well into the future. We are already starting to see a decrease in the OA's mortgage and interest fees, which reflects the transfer of our mortgage to CIBC in 2021. I'll take any questions at this point, if anybody has any. I'm just going to wait on the screen to see if anybody has any online questions. No questions. Fantastic. So we'll move along then. As an interlocking director of Pro-Demnity Insurance Company, I now have the pleasure of welcoming the chair of the Pro-Demnity board, Joanne McCallum, who will provide a brief overview of Pro-Demnity's insurance company's activities over the past year. Thanks, Joanne.
So I just want to say I feel very humbled actually to be here today in the company of our long-standing members whose stories are absolutely fantastic. I don't think I'm going to make that 50-year mark. I just don't want to turn into, one of those wonderful male aged architects. Anyway, it was a great story. But I do bring greetings from the management and from the board of Pro-Demnity. I know I see Bruce is here as well, so do say hello to him on your way out. We are 35 years now, first as the indemnity plan and now Pro-Demnity. And Pro-Demnity's promise is to protect and defend practices and to preserve one's livelihood and ability to continue to design creatively. And it's remained steadfast as the OAA has in terms of the pandemic. The last 2 years have been quite interesting. So I think that it's remarkable that we're doing well, and we're certainly on a solid foundation, as is the OAA. As the architecture profession is called to assume increasingly important role in designing resilient, regenerative, and net zero environments, Pro-Demnity is evolving lockstep with the profession to meet these demanding challenges. So I know for the last 2 days, certainly I've been in a lot of sessions that are about net zero, regenerative, decarbonizing, risk, and risk, and risk. So as an architect, I take a lot of comfort in the cause of Pro-Demnity, which is to support the architectural profession, to take the risks necessary to design a better world and to help us manage the risk. I think, for me, that is a really positive and powerful statement. So I'm not going to bore you with a lot of numbers. So I've already mentioned 35 years. There's 1,575 clients. There's $23 million in net premium earned in 2021. We had a profit of $2.2 million. I think what's really interesting is 75% of the claims, the costs are attributed to legal expenses, and 25% of the costs of claims are attributed to damages. So I think that really tells you how much effort, how much money goes into defending architects in this province. There's some other interesting numbers, but I think you've probably all had enough today. So I will go to the next slide, which is just to tell you about the three prongs of Pro-Demnity, which, you know, it's insurance solutions, risk education, and risk services. And those three components help deal with issues that have dealt in the past when we have claims. They help educate us for the present and prepare us for the future. And I think for those of you that remember David Croft, sorry, I'm now blanking, he used to have those great stories that would come out in print, come to the office, and we'd read them. They'd be probably the most exciting things to read. He had such a dry humor. But so they're now being done as podcasts on the Pro-Demnity website. So you can go, I think there's 2 up now, and they'll continue to come. They're great stories about how silly we architects can be sometimes and how we need to protect ourselves. So I hope you enjoy them. And I think I'm just going to close on that note, and thank you for allowing us to come and say hello to you today.
I was enjoying you talking so much, I forgot to come back to the podium, Joanne. Thank you. As the final item of business today, we are excited to take a few moments from a presentation to look at the OAA's newly launched 5-year strategic plan. So at this point, I'd like to introduce our strategic planning consultant, Kathy McLaughlin of Kathy McLaughlin and Associates. She's going to join us via a pre-recorded presentation to set the stage, explain the strategic planning process undertaken, as well as the elements of the plan and our way forward.
Hello, everyone. I'm Kathy McLaughlin, Managing Partner of McLaughlin Associates. The OAA engaged our firm to support council and staff to develop a multi-year strategic plan to set the direction for the organization and council for the next 5 years. The process started last fall with a survey and consultations with stakeholders, including council, past council, all staff, the Ontario Association for Applied Architectural Sciences Board, and outside organizations. The consultations resulted in identifying the opportunities, threats, strengths, and weaknesses facing the OAA. This gave us an excellent starting point, a situation analysis from which to do the creative work of confirming the OAA's mandate, clarifying the vision, and identifying the strategic goals the OAA wishes to focus on for the coming years. A strategic plan is like a roadmap or an architectural drawing that provides a framework for council and staff to ensure their work is focused on the important end results. It starts with a vision, an aspirational statement of the envisioned future for the organization and its constituents. The planning group confirmed their support in principle for the existing vision for the OAA in the following statement: an Ontario in which architects are valued contributors to society by creating a safe and healthy built environment that performs at the highest levels and elevates the human spirit. Inspired by that vision, the group then worked on the mandate and settled on a statement that clearly sets the purpose of the OAA as a professional regulator: to regulate and govern the practice of architecture in Ontario in the service and protection of the public interest, in accordance with the Architects Act, its regulations and bylaws, to develop and uphold standards of skill, knowledge, qualification, practice, and professional ethics among architects, and to promote the appreciation of architecture within the broader society. This represents a clear commitment to focus on the mandated purpose of the OAA as a professional regulator, a mandate that is legislated for professional provincial regulators like the OAA by the provincial government and comes directly from the Architects Act. Of particular note in the strategic plan is the OAA's commitment to address two very important environmental and social governance trends over the next 5 years: climate action and diversity, equity, and inclusion. These two themes will act as lenses that will be used to ensure the OAA's work is aligned to positively contribute to these important principles. In addition to those themes, the plan now has 4 clear goals that will be pursued by the OAA over the coming years: regulatory leadership, governance and operations, member competency, and public education. Each goal has a statement defining what successful progress will look like, along with the important initiatives that will be pursued to get there. Finally, each goal has a set of measurable targets that will be used to monitor progress annually and throughout the year. I encourage you, as proud registrants and members of this venerable profession, to read the 2022-2027 strategic plan to gain an understanding of the important aspirations your regulatory body is setting for the next 5 years in these 4 areas. Council has wisely committed to leveraging its investment in this new strategic plan by adopting a discipline to operationalize the plan by aligning all staff work, committee work, and all new initiatives toward the strategic goals. A new decision-making framework will be applied to ensure continued alignment. Council has also committed to an annual strategic plan review process to ensure the plan is adjusted for each new year, thereby remaining current and relevant. These actions will guarantee that the energy that went into creating this thorough plan does not end up sitting on the shelf or falling by the wayside. By adopting a disciplined implementation and decision-making framework, the OAA will ensure that staff and council will continue to operate within this architectural design for the future, even as councillors and staff members may change. We congratulate the OAA's council and staff team for creating a solid strategic plan that will serve as a blueprint and a sustainable legacy for the OAA for years to come. Thank you.
Kathy, we're here. I would say thank you. It was a pleasure working with her. And I think we all feel really enthused about going forward. So back to us at conference and inspiring climate action. We're still processing the impact of the pandemic, but trying to go forward, I think the health of our planet and EDI, the health of our people and the health of our profession are really the themes that have come out of all of this planning and discussion and operations and strategic priorities that we've been involved in for the last couple of years. And all of these recent activities are under the leadership of Council and our fearless leader, Executive Director, Christy Doyle. I just think we should have a clap right now. Just to Christy's a great leader. And ensure that we are proactive in keeping our house in order by staying in our lane. And I would say that that's really the theme of the last 2 years, learning to stay in our lane and partner with people who aren't in our lane but can help us in the advocacy role that everybody seems to want us and that we are not really mandated to do. So we are forming partnerships with all our societies. And the strategic plan is built on urgent lenses, which we all know about. And we use them as a frame to look at everything that we do. And we know what those are. I'll just repeat them again. They are equity, diversity, and inclusivity, and the climate emergency. These will continue to be priorities for the OAA as co-drivers moving forward. The planet's degradation as a result of human activity is now an indisputable fact. The timing and severity and necessary actions to mitigate are in debate. But the fact that we are participating in this climate issue is no longer a debate. We heard from members in all our 14 societies that are mandated provincial societies that they were overwhelmed, not knowing how or what to do to become meaningfully involved in helpful actions at whatever level of understanding and interest they were at. So our response was a 180-degree turn to really focus our webinars and the course of our conference, Inspiring Climate Action, for an overall perspective in history, to changing perspectives, to technical actions, to tool development, to finding our way to lead through the crisis as the challenge of our time. Since the built environment, as we have heard throughout this conference, is a substantial impact on greenhouse gas emissions, having an educated, skilled architectural profession is paramount to serving and protecting the public interest, which is what we are regulated to do. The architecture profession is poised to offer and enact solutions. As a provincial regulator, the OAA provides oversight and programming in a framework to ensure its members have the education and resources they need to ensure we are designing climate-stable solutions into new construction and renovation. So we are partnering with all kinds of industry stakeholders to strengthen code requirements, to raise public awareness about architecture's environmental impacts, the responsibility to participate in a profound and unequivocal way. Our commitment to this imperative was hitting our headquarters net zero targets a decade earlier than the 2030 requirement. I hope that many of you were able to see firsthand our revitalized building during the launch party last night, or by participating in one of the on-site continuing education case studies that are happening during the conference. Originally designed by Ruth Cocker, we were very lucky to have her from France at the opening and at the conference. An extensive visionary and urgent renovation retrofit project led by David Fujiwara under the direction of OEA Council in the OEA building were just wonderful to hear about. They spoke about their design principles, and it's always wonderful to understand design principles as they manifest and you stand in a piece of architecture understanding that. So thank you to those members and all those involved in the project who had the foresight to start this journey over 7 years ago. We are thrilled to reopen our doors. Staff are working in the building, we're actively monitoring metrics, and the building is a model of net zero design for both the profession and public alike. And as we like to say, our electrical bill was only $59 last year. So I think that's more than mine is every day. We approach the head office project the way you would with an ideal client. With a thorough cost-benefit analysis, we looked closely at the short and long-term gains. The benefits were clear. We could still have our bespoke, award-winning, beautiful building. We could save money over time, get an updated interior design, and a better functioning building. The project models to clients the right thing. Of course, the OEA has continued to pressure government to also do the right thing and use their regulatory authority to usher in systemic changes in climate-responsible building. But for now, the onus remains on us as professional individuals to do the right thing. We call on all of you to be engaged in this topic, to learn and to apply what you learn in studying classes and in your practices to lead the way for those who inherit the legacies we leave behind. The OEA is committed to climate stability, and we're taking further steps to entrench it into the way we work. Con Ed hours will be required in the content hour of climate stability in the next cycle. Our local societies, as we said, expressed an interest to learn, but a feeling of being overwhelmed by the vastness of the topic. To that, I say, and we say, simply start anywhere. The climate stability section of our website continues to provide and update resources, tools for members, including our total energy use intensity calculator, and this conference offers many launch points as well. Worried you're not an expert? Well, almost no one is. We received a great deal of feedback on our keynote speaker from Catherine Hayhoe in March, and it demonstrated a wealth of existing knowledge and passion about the climate among our members. It's clear to me that our profession cares and we're ready to take action. And I've seen that firsthand over my last year and a half as president, that we have a commitment and momentum to keep moving forward. So you've been very patient in sitting here all afternoon or in the late afternoon. I want to end with a quote from one of the fathers of the climate movement, Paul Hawkins, the author of Regeneration, which we heard about so beautifully in our plenary discussion. This is Paul Hawkins. This is a watershed moment in history. The heating planet is our commons. It holds us all. To address and reverse the climate crisis requires connection and reciprocity. It calls for moving out of your comfort zone to find a depth of courage we may never have known. And it doesn't mean being right in a way that makes anybody else wrong. It means listening intently and respectfully, stitching together the broken strands that separate us from life and one another. It means neither hope nor despair. It is an action that is courageous and fearless. We've created an astonishing moment of truth. The climate crisis is not a science problem. It is a human problem. The ultimate power to change the world does not rest in technologies. It relies on reverence, respect, compassion for ourselves, for all people, and for all life. This is regeneration. Thank you.